Hi and welcome to our 8th Speak Up by Smiley Movement. I'm going to be hosting the discussion today on accessing the world. We have some amazing guests today who are going to be talking to us about the topic of disability and accessibility in the world, and basically just how we can make the world a little bit more accessible for everybody. Thank you so much for joining me, guys. I do really appreciate you coming down here. Just to kick us off, going in deep here, as people with disabilities of like varying types, how do you find accessing the world as it is? I mean, you all travelled here on public transport today. Let's go with that. What was your experience like with public transport?
You want to go first?
I can do a national train, like a like a big train from Liverpool to London.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I can ask the people as well. I can't really read the board. But as soon as I hit London, I can't read the tube map. And I'm also not that steady on my feet because I've got dyspraxia. So I think people think that I'm like bumping into them on purpose and stuff, and I'm just trying to like stay steady.
So not the easiest.
No, not at all.
No.
It doesn't help when you're dressed like a clown either, because people are just like, as this girl being on the piss at Ethan Morton.
What about you, Darren? How was that?
I guess when you're saying accessing the world, I was thinking a bit grander.
I mean, that too. We're starting small
definitely.
here, Darren.
I suppose, I've been really fortunate enough to sort of travel to over 40 countries around the world, and I would definitely say I'm glad I'm living here. So, yeah, there are a few things that go wrong occasionally, but I've been in much worse situations and places I'd think, how on earth would I get from A to B if I was living somewhere else?
Yeah, it must be tricky. What's the trickiest journey, dare I say, that, because obviously you've got an amazing history with the Paralympics and traveling all over the world, but what sort of has been your trickiest journey, let's say?
Yeah, I think it's just like when you've got language barriers and also sort of different expectations and customs in terms of how you treat people with disabilities. So one of my sort of pet hates is when the scooter comes along or the buggy comes along and they kind of insist that you get in that, and I'm going, no, I'm perfectly capable of walking, I'm just blind, so I do have that right to make that choice. And but sometimes for their convenience that they kind of feel that's the best thing for them. But that's one of my kind of
pet peeves.
Yeah,
sort of.
definitely, yeah.
Jay, I seem to remember on your Instagram story you talked about a bit of a issue going abroad.
Yes.
As well, if you like, if
quite
you're happy
a couple of
speaking
issues
about that.
going abroad. I mean, it hasn't happened recently. I'm talking like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of instances where I've been kicked out of restaurants and shops, and very weird situation.
Yeah.
Wasn't expecting it. I still don't know the reason why. But yeah, there's some certain people in different countries that don't like me for some reason. I don't know what the reason is, but they wouldn't give me one. Just like, come on, get out. Been chewed off a tourist bus once in Barcelona.
Wow.
I enjoyed it, but I'll never go again.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
It was a bit of a tricky situation with Barcelona, which you think like. At the time, I was like, we're in 20th century, guys. Like, surely there is somebody out there that you've seen that looks like me. I'm not the only person here, come on. So weird situation.
Yeah, really weird.
Yeah, strange.
I was in Azerbaijan once, and there was this hotel where we were, and there was this big 6-lane sort of road outside to cross. But there was also a manhole without its cover on it, so had I been unassisted, I would have disappeared down there. So, there's those little things which you definitely don't get here.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. That must be quite stressful when you're like sort of traveling, you don't really know what to expect, or like, for example, for you, Lizzie, you're sort of struggling to even get around like the train station necessarily and things like,
I think,
or rather to get to the train platform and such.
But it's so well known with my like friendship group and like my support group. So like there's been times where I've travelled to Wales to see family, and if it was my younger sister, they would have just like let her like travel and get to the house by herself. But with me, like 5 of them went and all stood by different train doors to make sure that they're off at the right train, because I've just got no concept of like when you're changing time and stuff. So I think like even like travel like anywhere is just bad for me. Just trains in general, like
Yeah.
an Uber is a lifesaver.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah,
Especially when you've got quite a bit of luggage. Yeah. And you're having to like carry stuff about, like, can only carry one bag. Can't carry more than 2.
Although in London it does have its challenges because there is so many like zones where they can't stop or they can only stop there for a certain period of time. So they end up parking around some corner street somewhere and then you've got to try and find them. So yeah, sometimes I find that a challenge in London, but outside London things tend to be a lot easier.
Yeah. Weirdly, I mean, from again like my peanut gallery perspective, my fiance, she's an ambulatory wheelchair user, and so actually we weirdly find London easier because the buses have like the automatic ramps and things like that. So, and like the black cabs are often wheelchair accessible. So it's quite strange to see how different needs are, you know, addressed so differently in the same place. And like London obviously is quite a bit of a melting pot of a place, and like one would expect it might be quite accessible, but I mean, from what you're saying, Darren, it's a place that you find really, really difficult.
Yeah, I mean, there's always lots of options, so from that aspect it's great, but it's just that point of where you've got to go meet the vehicle and you've got to try and find a vehicle. So, you know, if you're in some little town where there isn't loads of restrictions on where the cars can drive, then and they haven't got, you know, they can stay there and they can actually get out of their car and go and find you. But sometimes you get in a situation where they cancel on you because you can't find them within, you know, 30 seconds kind of thing.
That's horrible.
And then you've got to go and order another one. So
that's really frustrating.
so that does happen. Yeah,
That must be really frustrating as well. And I guess kind of on that note, what are some of the like main struggles that you guys have, like obviously that we've talked about, that you are really passionate about making change for?
For me, I would say, and it might not be a big thing for other people, but for me, I get really bad anxiety when I go food shopping. If I need to do a big food shop and I have to go by myself, I'll just go, no, I won't even bother. I'll just go and get little bits as and when, because it's the packing and everybody stood there when you've got massive queues and stuff. I know that they've got the self counter now, but even then, like, needing help putting things in your bags, and people also think that they can't ask you for help, like if you need the help. And I'm quite independent anyway, so I'm like, just leave me to it, I can do it myself, it's fine. But especially at Aldi, and they're like, you know, scanning the things at like 100 mile an hour, and I'm like, wait a minute, you know. And you've got people behind you that are like in a massive queue, and they're like tutting and huffing and puffing and stuff, and it's just like, I give up, I'll go, I'll leave.
Stop throwing the stuff at
Stop
me.
throwing the stuff at me. I'm like, holding bag open like this, and like, just get it all in.
it is really quick, isn't it?
Yeah,
They are
really
rapid.
quick, like
They
100
are.
mile an hour, and
It's
I'm
funny.
like, help me. So yeah, that is one thing that I would necessarily change. Like when you see somebody that is in struggle, like don't, you know, just give them the time. Don't be patient. Don't push them.
So what we're saying is that people at Aldi are just like really like on it about like, well, they're just really
They're
buzzing
really
for
helpful
the job, aren't
though.
they?
Yeah, I mean, I've had somebody that's done it at the beginning, gone really fast, and they've gone, oh, and then they've said, and they've gone, slow that down a little bit. Do you need help? I'm like, yes, please, thank you. Really appreciate that.
Covered in like lettuce.
Yeah, literally. Oh my god. But yeah, that is one thing that that I struggle with.
Yeah.
I don't know about.
My
Anybody
one
else?
thing is touchscreen keypads. So they,
Yeah.
We had a
they
conversation about
just
this, didn't we?
seem to be appearing more and more. So I've had a couple. So you sometimes get them in shops, and there is an option for them to. I'm not saying get rid of the terminals, but they're supposed to have a keypad that you can put over the top of it so you can use it. And only a couple of weeks ago, I was in a lift in London. And it had, you know, very fancy building, and it had this touchscreen keypad in the lift. So, again, had I been there on my own, I'd have been sort of whirring around the building, getting lost, not having a clue where I am. So, you know, sometimes technology can be a great saviour, but then people go and take it to the next level where you can't actually use it.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me that you know, for me as an able-bodied person, you know, these are often things that I don't even really think about, and like, you know, it's a little bit annoying for me, like when they go fast at Aldi or whatever, and like it's a little bit gross when we all use the same touchpad in the lift or like whatever, but like this isn't something that I think about on a daily basis. And like what I'm hearing is that like actually there just needs to be a little bit more consideration for people who might need something delivering in a different way.
Yeah, definitely.
For you, Lizzie, kind of like, is there...
I think for me, it's knowledge for workplaces. We've got like a lot of access schemes, like access to work and stuff that can help people get jobs and stay in a job. But a lot of, it seems like big corporations kind of know, and then it kind of gets lost. And I think like all workplaces should know about it, because I think people, when you, I don't know whether you tick disability on like application forms, but I do, because I think it's important to be like just visible and be like, this is me anyway. But I think sometimes people get scared of it. And like the cost of a reasonable adjustment, but the average reasonable adjustment is £75 in the UK.
Wow.
And with the Access to Work scheme, the government pays for that. So like there's such a big stigma around it. It's nothing.
And workplaces don't know about it because it's something that isn't spoken about as much. And I mean, the government don't really want to be helping as much as what. I mean, I've got that out.
Sorry, you can say that. You can say that. It's
to a certain extent, they don't want as much people to know what they can offer because it's more money, innit? It's more money for them. That's just my opinion.
No, I don't disagree.
I mean, access to work, I didn't know about it. And for years, I worked in an office and I had a normal-handed keyboard, and I didn't know about it for years, and I kept getting repetitive strain injury and so bad cramp and stuff, and I had to keep going to hospital in and out because like it were really bad. And then I found out about a one-handed keyboard. I ended up getting one, and that was through Access to Work. And if I didn't know about that, which I didn't do previously, but if I looked into it, legally work can provide that for you because they've got to help you with your accessibility. And it's done me a world of good. It's been a massive lifesaver, and I've not had nowhere near as many problems as what I did before. So
and nobody at any stage, like at work or at the hospital or whatever, ever kind of said like, you know, there's a scheme like
no, because they didn't know about it. So it's one of them things where if you don't have many like people that have got disabilities, workplaces don't know. So it is really educational, like you said, Lizzie, to have like to give them the tools and what they need so they can look into it for that individual more.
And like push the scheme more for like cafes and stuff, because entry level jobs for people with disabilities are amazing. It's a great foot in the door and stuff, but like obviously a little cafe might not think that they've got any means to provide a job. And just knowing that there's them schemes and support there would like help so many employers.
So how would they find out? Because I'm thinking that obviously big companies have an HR department, and they go on CIPD training and all sorts of things like that. But for a lot of smaller businesses, they don't have, I own my own business, and you kind of do everything, don't you? So in that situation, it's kind of very unlikely that they're ever going to find out about it. And I think probably we need to start with ourselves and making sure at least all the people who might be going to the workplace know about it themselves, and it's perhaps their job to inform their employer in those situations.
That's it massively, and especially to do neurodiversity at the minute, there's also a passport scheme, so you can say like your skills and go to employers, so you don't have to kind of get reassessed by their HR and occupational health.
Well, that's good.
But like again, loads of people just don't know about it. I think there seems to be like a loss of knowledge, from like leaving school to when you leave, there's kind of no support then.
It's like you let go and you're off in the world and like, go fend for yourself now.
Jumped off tree branch, like fly.
You're like, I've got no wings to fly.
I can't do this. And unless you're following the right people on social media who are also like talking about neurodiversity or disability, like you don't ever learn about these things.
Exactly.
It's true.
It's all being knowledgeable, isn't it? And like passing your knowledge through other people, do you know? Because otherwise, if you don't talk about it, you'll never know.
So I guess it's quite interesting because like in these sorts of chats we talk a lot about community, whether that's like the queer community or for example the disabled community, and I guess what I'm hearing is that it's really important for everybody, including able-bodied people, to kind of like tap into that community and make sure that messages are sort of like passed through, and that everybody actually knows that there is like something out there that could help them, like the Access to Work scheme. And I guess like you were saying, 10 years ago in Barcelona, things were a little bit different maybe.
Yeah.
How have you guys seen accessibility and inclusivity and people's attitudes change over time?
I think again, it's more like even though social media can be a bad, like there's a lot of negative social media out there, isn't there? Like and trolling and all that kind of stuff, you know. But because of the media and more people are, you know, speaking up about, you know, how they live day to day, and it's being pushed more out there through different platforms. I think that more people are more accepted to listen rather than just shoo it off and, oh, the disabled, put them in a box kind of thing, they can't do anything. But it's not like that. Like, we're very capable, it's just that we're doing our thing in our own little way.
I think for everyone in their own little world, it's created a bigger community.
Yeah.
Because, like, the way social media works, doesn't it, target you with more of the same stuff. So then you build a nice little community up, don't you? And
yeah.
I think it's quite nice.
It is.
I think with neurodiversity, though, with, like, people being diagnosed more, then we get, like, these random things, like Joe Wicks saying it's food this week that causes ADHD and stuff. And
I'm sorry, what?
yeah, there's this article that, like, it's like bad food that's causing ADHD.
Right.
Now people are like going mad, and I'm just like, oh, but it's like.
Joe's my man. Me and him are on Insta together, so I'll have a word with him. I'll have a word with him.
Like, what are you chatting? But it's just like, and people like the trend thing, like suddenly, oh, it's a trend to be neurodiverse, and people see it like the diagnosis is like, but they don't realise all the stuff that comes with diagnosis and all the issues, and I'm like, it's not a trend.
That's not a particularly new thing, to be honest, though, the idea about food and ADHD. I mean, when I was at school, they were talking about all these E-numbers, and that was like 30 years ago. So
I think that was sort of causing neurodiversity.
Well, in terms of ADHD, at least, anyway.
Okay.
And kids being hyperactive and that side of things. So, in terms of some of the other areas, I haven't seen what you said, so I
The
won't
blue
comment.
Smarties have more power than we thought.
That's
apparently.
what I was thinking.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
I was thinking of blue Smarties, like,
that's
it was
it.
so good.
Food colouring.
Yeah.
Oh my god, and that is like quite strange, and it kind of pulls into like what we've been talking about like misinformation and having information, and sort of like discussing things a little bit more openly, because like you guys have rightfully said, if we don't talk about it, then how is anybody going to know, you know, that E-numbers don't cause ADHD, or that there is an Access to Work scheme and things like that.
Massively. And I think being younger as well, I feel like, because there was no social media, because I'm 30 now.
You're not as old as me, love, I'm 32.
But there was no social media, so I never see myself anywhere. You know, like, people like say, oh, I'm going to be like this when I grow up. I never knew I couldn't work in an office. Well, I could work in an office, but I couldn't see myself there because I struggled so much with reading and stuff. So it was hard, and like at one point I thought I was going to become a nun, because I found out Whoopi Goldberg had dyslexia.
I love that.
And I loved him.
And you jumped straight to
Sister,
nun.
and I was like, I'll become a nun. Like, what does that even?
Oh god, love that.
It worked in my brain then.
Well, you didn't. I'm guessing.
Well, that's only because I got really into Criminal Minds and Bones around university time, and ended up doing a criminology degree. I'm very easily influenced. Yeah. I thought I'd be catching a serial killer a week. I don't know what happened.
Amazing. I really love that, honestly. So good.
Bad.
They were interesting though to go through, weren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, it was
And so obviously you went to university and studied my sister's doing criminology, and it's quite a taxing subject. And was there assistance for like your neurodiversities when you were at university?
Yeah, I did not want to go. because I think being neurodiverse, you get like kind of not mollycoddled, but I had a lot of support. And then you go to uni and you're like, it's a new life in it. Like, I'm gonna be cool. I'm not going there. And I was suffering bad. I'd given like a essay with like one full stop in like 50,000 words or something. But I really have an issue with full stops because I think it's your issue. You should know when to breathe.
I love that. I'm going to use that next time. You should know when to breathe.
I don't see the point in it.
Amazing. I love that.
And then it got to like second year, and they were like, you really need to start going and seeing your support.
Yeah.
And from there on, like, it was amazing, and the support you got, and I had the laptop and the pens that read to you, and I got really into it then, and it was fantastic. And I'd make a bit of extra cash because they buy you books. So I'd say to all my mates, I'll buy everyone books, and we'll have like a collective of, our own. If you all give me 20 quid.
It sounds like fraud. You better be careful.
Making your own little business.
Little sideline.
Yeah, never say your disabilities can't stop you from earning money, okay? In fact, they help.
Yeah, it was great,
Dear.
Definitely got me like a bottle of book fast. Living the dream.
I was going to say, I don't think attitudes have changed loads, to be honest. I still think there's that perception of kind of poor disabled person. I think that's most people's default response, and it's only after maybe having a conversation with you they realise that you can do a whole numerous things, but the bar's set pretty low. I think I meet people all the time and they're amazed that when you approach a set of stairs of things, they'll drag you towards the lift because I say, well, I don't live in a bungalow, or when I'm walking down the kids, people come up to me and say, oh, I think it's amazing that you walk to school with your kids or whatever like that, and I go, yeah, you're probably amazed that I've got a child, I guess. That's the kind of level we are. So, I genuinely don't think attitudes have changed that much. I just think it once you do have a conversation with people, then they, it starts to open their eyes and they start to ask questions. But just from the questions they ask, it kind of tells you where their thinking is generally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, agreed with that. It is, like Darren said, it is like when it's until you have a conversation with someone, isn't it? And some people do automatically assume that you can't do certain things, but obviously the more that they get to know you, the more that they're, they're like, oh yeah, they can do that. Quite surprised. But yeah, it's but it's a good little feeling though when somebody thinks that you can't do something and you show them wrong, and it's like, yeah, go on.
Yeah, I bet it is. Does it ever make you feel reticent about asking for help when you do need it, because there is often an assumption that you need to be coddled a little bit, or you need all this extra assistance that maybe you don't?
I'd say no. I think you realise my sight kind of deteriorates. I remember going through that phase of when I could see a lot more, and knowing it was going to take me twice as long to sort of do it on my own, and then actually once I'd lost it all, it actually came a little bit easier to kind of to ask for that help. But yeah, I think we all know that when you do that, you're going to get things done much quicker, and when you're around other people, I realise how little help other people ask for. So I could be with one of my friends who can see, and we're struggling around, and they can't read their maps on their phone, etc. And I said, why don't you just ask someone? And it's like, no, I'm going to struggle on with this. It's like, mate, we're going to be here all day. Just get on with it. I'll ask.
Amazing. I mean, like, I have to say, like, I do struggle asking for help. Like, to what you were saying, like. And sometimes my fiance will be like, maybe we just ask someone, and I'm like, no, I've got this. So I guess it gives a very different perspective on assistance, I guess, for you guys. I don't know what you guys think about that.
I mean, I ask for, my friends just automatically just do it for me now. Don't even need to ask. Like, they'll see a steak in front of me and they'll go, right, swap plates. Started cutting my steak up for me. I'm like, thanks. Make sure I don't choke. Make sure the pieces are quite small. And yeah, I mean, I'm quite independent anyway, but if somebody sees me struggling, I'm like, yeah, please can you help me? Because at first they'll be like, do you need help? I'm like, no, I'm alright, I've got this. And then I'll give up at the end. And I'm like, actually, yeah, please, it'll just take 2 seconds for you. It's taking me about 6 days.
I think I'm quite good at asking as well.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, let's just do it. Ask for help. But I think it's paid off in a great way, because I think it's removed stigma of asking for anything. So like I will just put myself in situations and be like, oh, could I do that? Or can I be involved in that?
Yeah.
Because I'm so used to asking for help and for other support anyway, that I just don't, whereas other people are quite sheltered and don't want it. They're just like, I'm just going to stay in this lane.
Yeah. I think it's a pride thing as well, isn't it? Like, I don't know. Like, for me, it's like, oh, I feel like I've been defeated.
Yeah.
But really, I shouldn't look at it like that. I should be like, right, it takes literally 2 seconds for them to do it, rather than you making a big thing out of it and having to struggle when there's no need.
And there's always things that we can help them with. I mean, I've been in cars before, and sometimes I'll be directing my mate, and I'll say, yeah, just turn left at the end of here, and then turn right, and they're just like, but how do you know? How do you know? I said, I walk this route all the time. I kind of know, whether it's just the slope of the road or whatever it is, or there's a pedestrian crossing that goes off. You learn all these other cues that you can use to sort of navigate the environment, and so they don't realise I can use all those things, and so they just think I'm some. Got some superpower, but I haven't really. Just using my brain.
Integrated sat nav.
Yeah. That's so cool. I'm so jealous. Yeah, I think it's quite interesting that you say that, because it just kind of proves the point that not only does having any kind of disability not stop you from doing anything you want, but in a lot of ways it also just gives you like a very different perspective that is sometimes like advantageous, like obviously because you, Darren, knew your way around, it was a lot easier for you than it was for your friend, who I presume could see, because I think you talked about him driving a car. And yeah, like in some ways I guess it just gives you a different perspective. I guess particularly for you, Lizzie, your neurodiversity, I remember you talking sort of on Bake Off about like the creativity it gives you and things like that. That must be pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's great. It's got loads of positives, and I think we really do see the positives in like social media now, and people talk about like how much creativity, like I describe it as, like when you're watching Criminal Minds and they have the murder boards.
Yeah.
That's like how my brain works. It like has them massive leaps.
Oh yeah.
So like on Bake Off I made this very random Easter pavlova, and I was like, Easter, lambs, rosemary, boom. And everyone was like, how? And I was like, that is literally, my brain just pops from like next thing.
Yeah.
But like I think from the positives you see loads about creativity in social media, but then you don't actually see like with me in dyslexia, like you hear like people are dyslexic, like Keir Knightley came out and was like, oh, you saying I'm dyslexic made me cry and all this, but like you'd never hear like how it affects them.
Yeah.
So like my reading age is like 9 years 3 months. So like really low.
Yeah.
So like on my social media I try and read, which goes really horrendous. I've read like 2 books in a year. I'm so slow. I'm like, this must be the most boring life ever. But like showing, like the other side to the creativity, there is like also like not flaws, but I don't know the word for it.
Struggles,
like
Struggles.
Because I think like we probably do like push the oh my god, you're neurodiverse, so creative, like more than we push like. I don't, because I think it is hard to push struggles, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot better. It's a lot easier to talk about the positives than what it is the negatives.
Yeah.
Well, that's everything in life, isn't it? You're not obviously going to go to your negatives first, are you?
Yeah.
This is what really gets me down compared to, I'm absolutely buzzing.
Yeah.
It's something that you don't speak about, isn't it? But
I think the negatives are bonding.
Yeah.
And like a more like, I don't know, like relationship building.
Yeah, it's more relatable.
Yeah.
Because when you start talking about and being more open to discussion about the negative side of things, more and more people start opening up then and say, oh, I have that issue.
Yeah.
And then you feel like you're not on your own then.
Yeah.
And it's very, it is quite good in that sense.
It is.
It's that power of vulnerability, which is like my favourite TED Talk, you know, Brené Brown's talk.
Yeah.
And, absolutely, it's a way of connecting with people, definitely. So yeah, and that's the thing with social media, isn't it? Because generally, you are kind of pushing always the positives, and you've always got your best pictures out there and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, sometimes, you've got to be a bit more balanced.
Yeah.
Can I ask what sport you did in the Paralympics?
I'm greedy. I did 2 different ones. So
Multi-talented.
I did judo in Beijing and I did football in London 2012.
Was it?
Yeah, sick.
I mean, for you, Darren, you literally had a whole team of people around you who were sort of in a similar boat to you when you were like doing football and things like that. That must have been mustn't have been anything. Like, how was that for you?
So the goalkeepers can see, by the way. So
Okay.
that's one of the nuances of the game, and obviously we've got a coach and a guide as well who can see. And but yeah, I think it was. I mean, it was really funny. Like, when you're in the Paralympics, you're surrounded by other people with disabilities, and it's like a really strange environment because there's nothing seems to be off limits. People like to gross you out with how they've lost limbs and stuff like that. Literally try and make you throw up. And I remember the wheelchair rugby guys trying to run me over as well. So it's like a game of dodgems or sort of thing. You know? Except they're on wheels and I was on my feet, and they're trying to take me out and stuff like that. And but yeah, it's a real kind of leveler, and you just sort of, there's like people with no arms who are eating, their dinner with their feet and chopsticks and stuff, and it's just like. And it's just crazy. But what it just shows you is just how adaptable we all are, given the challenges that we're given. And that's the great strength of the human character, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. It must be quite, I guess, refreshing to be in a place where accessibility is almost more of a given. When you're sort of like at Paralympics and everybody knows that there are a lot of people who might need certain accommodations for their various needs.
Yeah, just because the people in the organisation, the people who are in the British Paralympic Association, they've got people with lived experience in it at the end of the day. So that just comes from the people at the top. You're not going to learn about it or know about it unless you've got people around you who've had those experiences who can kind of say, what do you need? What do these guys need? And so they're able to put those things in place in advance just because they've asked a question.
Yeah. I guess asking questions, like you were saying about being vulnerable, that's just like one of the biggest things.
It is. I agree with that. Like, people just need to ask the questions, because if you don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah.
And I think some people, in my experience, again, I can't talk for anybody else, but in my experience, I feel like people they feel like they're walking on eggshells, and they don't want to ask you specific questions because they feel like you're going to get offended, and then it opens this massive can of worms of like, oh, well, I've said it now and I'm going to offend them. And I'm very open, and I'm like, listen, you can ask me anything that you want and I will not get offended in any way, shape or form.
Has anyone ever actually challenged that and offended you?
Oh yeah, not offended me, but they've asked me a question that they thought I'd get offended. I found it hilarious, and I'm like, actually, I've had that before. And they were like, what? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, don't get offended, trust, it's fine. But like I said, if you don't ask the questions, then they'll never know the answers to it. So
yeah, maybe it's just important that we talk to each other.
Yeah.
A little bit more.
Don't be scared, because not like you said as well, Abby, before, like about questions. I can't remember what you said before when you were like, oh, and I said there's no stupid questions.
Yeah.
Like, it is what it is. Whatever questions you've got, it's valid.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if I get offended, but sometimes I probably am short in my response to people. Like sometimes when they do ask a ridiculous question, and I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head. Like, people will ask stuff like, how do you find your mouth when you're eating, or stuff like that. It really is at that level sometimes. And so sometimes I, maybe because I'm quite sarcastic in nature, I will kind of give them a really short response, but and so they might take that as I've taken offence, but I just think they're stupid. So
Yeah.
and they're not
Well,
worthy of my
that
response.
is a dumb question.
Yeah, it is a very dumb question.
Yeah, that is a dumb question.
I guess, do you get lots of the same question as well from different people who, I guess, think that you've never been asked it before?
Yeah. People always think they're been original, aren't they? You know, whether it's with their jokes or things like that. I mean, the common one is perhaps the non-question, which is when you're in a shop and they just don't speak to you and they speak to the person you're with. So that's quite a common experience.
Yeah.
And sometimes the person I'm with will challenge them and say, why don't you ask him yourself? And then sometimes I just say to them, it says I'm blind or deaf, you know what I mean? And again, I'll use some sarcastic remark.
Yeah.
But I just think it's because people are just uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I have to suppose appreciate that this might be the first time they've ever met a blind person. And I guess when I've met people from other walks of life I've never met before, I guess I'm probably quite reticent as well about how to approach that situation. So I guess it is normal.
I guess maybe on that we sort of need to have a little bit more visibility for people with various disabilities, like the Paralympics, like you guys being on maths and on Great British Bake Off and things like that. Like, I mean, you, Jay, I know have had a lot of messages from people kind of saying like, oh, I see someone like me, and like you were saying earlier, Lizzie, that must be quite tell me what it's like.
It was very overwhelming at first for me because at the beginning, I'll be honest, I were expecting a lot of trolling, just on like how you look and with it being on telly, and there's some nasty people out there, we all know that, and I was prepared for that, but I got the complete opposite and I wasn't prepared for that at all. And I just had so many people, especially like mothers of children that have had kids that are like me, that wasn't in the know, because I was born and my mum and dad didn't have a clue. Like I was just born, it was a massive shock, and they were like, oh, don't know how it's happened, she's lost her arm along the way, you're gonna have to deal with it, kind of thing. No support. Mum's like, all right, nice one. On the gas and her and stuff, so what's going on? But yeah, some women have ended up messaging me with pictures of the babies and stuff, and I'm like, oh my god, they're adorable. And they're like, honestly, you just put my mind at ease so much now, because I was struggling, thinking like, what we're gonna do? Is she gonna be okay? Like, is my baby gonna be all right? And I'm like, they're fine.
Yeah.
So it's kind of put their mind at ease, and it's been a really nice, touching thing for me. Just knowing that I've helped people without actually helping, if that makes sense.
Without doing anything.
Yeah, without doing anything, but like been such a big support network for other people out there that have got learning differences, or even I've had people message me with different disabilities, cerebral palsy and things, and like, wish that I had your confidence.
Yeah.
I'm like, you can just be as confident,
But I think you say without doing anything, but that's kind of underestimating
Well,
how much it takes to kind of put yourself out there.
Yeah.
And actually, in lots of cultures, and even in this country, maybe in times gone past, people with disabilities were hidden away.
Yeah.
In institutions, or people didn't want them to be seen. So that's why it's changed to a certain degree, because you are choosing to put yourself out there, because it is a choice.
Yeah.
And some people will choose not to.
I think it just seems so easy though, and then you get all the feedback, and then you get overwhelmed because you're like, I was just being myself.
Yeah.
And once you've done it for like 2 episodes, you kind of forget the cameras are there, don't you, and stuff.
Yeah.
And you just you're just yourself, aren't you? And then when you get all the feedback, you're like, oh, okay. didn't think I were that loved, but right, no worries.
Do you guys get the inspiration comments
Yes.
a lot? Yeah.
Do get that quite often.
Yeah.
Must be, well, how is it? Is it a bit weird? Is
Um,
it a lot? Is it?
It was at first. It's really, it's like I said, like it's quite overwhelming again. But it's just lovely to know that there's some nice people out there that are like, you're such an inspiration. I'm like, me an inspiration. Never seen myself as an inspiration ever in my life. But I've always looked up to other people, you say, like, and I just see myself as the same as everybody else. Yeah, I've got one hand, but I crack on, I deal with it. I'm not sat here pity partying, do you know? It's one of them. Like, I can't do anything to change it, so why be sad about it, do you know? I'd rather just get on with my life and be happy.
Yeah.
And as long as I can put that and put my little bit back into society and get people to have that little bit of confidence, and I'll be happy.
Yeah, absolutely. What about yourself, Darren?
I guess, yeah, the word's used a lot, and there's obviously that terminology, sort of inspiration porn, and I think it's about their expectations. So when people say, you know, that was really inspirational, or I feel really inspired, I then challenge them back and say, okay, so what are you going to do with it? What have I inspired you to do? What are you going to do differently as a result of, you know, of what you've heard or seen today? So, and yeah, put it back to them. Go and show me that you're inspired. Go and do something amazing with your own life.
What sort of response do you get from that, out of interest?
Well, I'm quite a combative guy, so yeah.
I love it. It's great.
Yeah, no. Some people. I ask them, well, you know, what did you find inspiring about it? I try and, because it's kind of an easy sort of throwaway word.
Yeah.
Once you've heard it quite a few times, you think, well, okay. Because as I mentioned earlier, you know, just sort of walking down a set of stairs, people find amazing. They're inspired, you know, say just because you know, seemingly just that you breathe. And so sometimes I think it's because of their low expectations of what disabled people do, and I want to sort of raise those expectations and actually expect us to be doing great things. You know, you'll see kids on the news, you know, oh, this kid plays the piano or something like that. You know, how inspirational is that? And I'm thinking, well, do you know what I mean? Actually, you don't have to be able to see to play the piano. So, but maybe it's me sort of not sort of appreciating how amazing some of the things we do. So when I am with some of my friends, and I, because we do so many things just like that, we almost take it for granted. Actually, that not everybody, even with our own communities, are doing those things. So it's probably a bit of both.
I guess when you do something so often, it just sort of becomes second nature. You know, like you're saying, like passing your steak to your mates, and or like your family coming and picking you up, or you know, things like, or like knowing where you're going without using your sat nav, things like that. If you know, if you do anything regularly enough, it does just sort of become.
Well, it's like our
normal.
day-to-day life, isn't it? We don't know any different.
Yeah.
So you know what your day-to-day life is different, completely different to what our day-to-day life is. But we don't know any different, so we just crack on, don't we?
I think that's interesting that like even our day-to-day lives are different to like the people in our communities as well, because our skill sets are so diverse in one community that it could be you're inspiring others because they haven't got the skill set in that community yet.
Yeah, exactly. Like even I don't know everything about different people that have got disabilities. Like especially with like neurodiversity, I don't know half of the stuff as what you could teach me, but this is why we need the conversations so that we can all come together and everybody learn from each other.
Yeah, because we're not born with knowledge.
No.
I think people forget that. Like people are scared, but you're not born knowing everything, and then you only learn a very small bit in school of what people want you to know, kind of thing, isn't it? Like we learn a small amount of history, we learn a small amount of tiny little pots. Like kind of got to learn it yourself, and it's terrifying. Especially when you don't like reading books. I'm relying on all these TikTok historians.
Especially without full stops in them.
Learn how to breathe.
I guess we've talked a little bit about social media, but I often think of social media as a great equalizer sometimes. It can be quite humbling, but also it's very good for sort of like spreading knowledge. Just like things like these podcasts are, like TED Talks are. How have you guys seen social media sort of, or anything like this, draw attention or awareness to disabilities and
Ask these two youngsters.
Well, I put a video up last week.
Yes.
And it was me typing on my one on the keyboard, and now it's currently 5.2 million views, which
that's crazy.
Has gone mental. And I was like, what? And I'm just sat there doing this, and everyone's like going crazy for it. Like, didn't even know one of these existed. I've had people messaging me, that like me, like didn't even have a clue these existed. Please, can you tell me the information and where you can get it from and stuff? And I'm like, see, like no, it's just little things like that.
Yeah.
That is so helpful to people.
Yeah.
But is also like again unseen, yeah. And not a lot of people know about it. So yeah, it's gone mental. Weren't expecting that at all. Sat there at work, typing away. Thought, I'll just do a quick little video.
I could do one every week now.
I was like, woohoo.
How fast can I type the
Yeah,
alphabet?
double money. Money from the TikTok, money from the work. Here we're rolling in it.
Yeah.
Lizzie,
crazy.
you've spoken a lot about like social media as well. Like you read on social media and stuff. That I mean, do you have responses from people kind of being like, oh, I didn't know this, that, or the other?
Yeah, the reading thing has really been fantastic. So I've even done joint read-alongs with a fella in America who was like imprisoned, and he's like basically like got kicked out of school, and just he was like, I never got diagnosed. I was just kind of forgotten about. So he's teaching himself to read. So we read a book together.
I love that.
That's so cute.
So it's like a real connector, but it's amazing because like obviously you get random people that come in and like, oh, she's faking it, she can read. And I'm just like, but like when I get stuck on a word, people like try and phonetically spell it to me to try so I can try and like grasp
That's
the
really
words.
sweet.
It's amazing. So I go into a lot of schools as well. And I went into a school called Aldbridge, and it's a neurodiversity school, and I was seeing year 10s, and I was talking about dyslexia, and I was saying like, obviously all dyslexics are different. I hate reading, but someone might enjoy it. And this girl was like, oh, I love it.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, listen to your reading lives, and I try and teach you the words that you can't read. And I'm like,
Oh,
got to be calm. I was like crying. I was like, oh my God, it's so sweet.
that's really good though.
But like, it's just like seeing someone, because I would have liked to be able to see someone that like was 30 and like kind of couldn't read, because it's just hard.
Yeah. And we've kind of got distracted on all these amazing things that I've been enjoying, been enjoying listening. But finally, I guess all three of you are really involved with like sort of charities. And OJ, you've just been named ambassador of Reach and stuff.
Amazing.
And kind of on that note, are there any charities or organisations that you think are doing really amazing work for the disabled community that you want to talk about a little bit?
Yeah, so I'm an ambassador for Motability, and that's a brilliant organisation which just really wants to give people the ability to travel independently, and you can use your high rate of your mobility allowance for those people who are on personal independent payments, and basically you can get a car, and obviously for someone like myself who can't drive, I can get a designated driver as well. So yeah, that's one example of someone who's doing some great work.
Yeah, that's brilliant. What about you, Jay?
Reach, I would say Reach.
Yeah.
Helping kids with upper limb differences, and it's basically the charity that supports not only the children but the families as well. So it's just like a massive support network. They go on like multiple different getaways like for the week and stuff, and then they go to different events, and it's just a really nice community for everybody to share the differences, and it's just amazing like how quickly families and stuff can bond, and that have been within the charity for years. So it's just a lovely way to everybody get together and just help each other out.
And am I right in thinking that charity was one you were in, like your family was involved with?
So my mum found Reach when I was a kid. And I was struggling at the time, like with bullies and stuff at school, like primary. She was like, I found this charity that you can go to. Anyway, funny story, I ended up going to one of these events, and I got a bit freaked out because it was the first time that I'd been in a room with, let alone one person like me, but a full room of them. So I was like a bit overwhelmed at the time, and I was like, don't know how to take this in. So yeah, but it is a really good way on like to make sure that kids are not on their own.
Yeah.
Like they've got other people that are like that.
Yeah.
Out there as well.
Absolutely.
Nice.
And Lizzie, every time I look at you, you seem to be involved in about 8 more different charities.
Love community groups and charities. Oh, it makes me so excited.
I was trying to list like the charities that you're involved with for your like bio, and I was like, I've just got
Too
to
many.
stop. Like, I've just got to stop.
So I'm ambassador for the British Dyslexic Association, which is fantastic for work support on, like dyslexic fonts, how to set up dyslexic friendly emails, all that. I'm now working for a charity called the Mason Foundation, which offers neurodiversity training to workplaces and talks about, like Nimbus cards, access to work, just so like everyone can know. And that's like free training for small businesses and medium size. And yeah, there's just so many. Oh, I'm also ambassador for the Steps to Work scheme at Strawberry Fields, which helps people between 18 and 25 who are neurodiverse gain a workplace or have a learning disability gain workplace employment, because less than 4.7% of the UK workforce is neurodiverse or has a learning disability, and it's actually gone down by like 2% in the past year.
Wow.
So it's like a major issue.
Yeah.
But there's even like the ADHD Foundation, and when you see the umbrellas in the street that are all like different colours,
Yeah.
that's represents ADHD, and people just don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah, people just think, oh, it's a nice little umbrella.
I just thought that random. I thought they were colourful.
It's a whole ADHD installation. I genuinely love going to community groups and like just talk to people and all these fantastic there's loads of small charities that help people and families and they never get the airtime, do they?
No.
And it's so hard.
Yeah.
Like when you go like on like TV stuff and you're like, oh, I'm going to talk, and they're like, we don't really talk about charity. And I'm like, okay. It's mad.
We really are running short on time now. But what is, from your like personal lived experience, what is something that you think really needs to, or what is something that you think we can change to make life easier for people with varying disabilities, whether that's something your friends can do, something the government can do, or just some random on like the street? Like, is there anything that you would actually just say like right now, like we can do that?
For me, I think it's always going to be around raising awareness. I think there's actually a lot of things which are already being done, which most of us don't even know about. And I'll give you an example. I went to Westfields the other day, which brings back fond memories, because London 2012, we were literally kind of next to it every single day. But I went into Westfield Shopping Centre down in Stratford, and I went up to the help desk, and I could basically find they had like some people who could take you to the shop that you wanted to go to. So you could say, well, I want to go to this shop. They take you to that shop, and then you then go to a person in the shop who then take you around and get what you need. Then you could basically call the desk back up to get someone to pick you up to take you to the next shop. And so this idea of kind of independent shopping was like completely new to me, in the sense of that I could do that in a shopping mall and go to all the shops I needed to go to. And I did not know that service existed. So even for myself, who doesn't know what's out there must be loads of other people who are just not making the most of the services that are available to them.
Yeah, absolutely. About you, Jay?
I would say same as Darren, really, create more awareness. People just to be a little bit more open-minded, not narrow-minded. And yeah, I would, like, in terms of accessibility and different things, like the one on the keyboard, a lot of people don't know about that. Hopefully I've let everybody know. Whole 5 million of you. Not that exists, so if you want to go and get one, please do. But yeah, it's creating more awareness on what is available to people out there, especially that want to work in different environments. And if they want to work in an office and they feel like they can't and they can't speak up, you can.
Yeah.
Just ask the questions and, there will be an answer.
Yeah, absolutely. Lizzie?
I'm sheeping it. I'm going to follow with the same answer. Oh God! But I think that there's stuff there to help already, and I think we need to make sure that this stuff works and make sure everyone knows about it, and then we can add more on top. But let's get people using the services that we've got and like get them working to like the key points.
Yeah.
And then go from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if people don't use them, then they might withdraw those services, because they go, there's no demand for this, people aren't using it, so that shops put that out for people to use it, people are not using it, and they kind of go, well, no one wants it, so we'll get rid of it. So yeah, it's really important that we use what we've already got.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think yeah, that's it. No more. Thank you so much for joining me today, guys. I do really appreciate it. And it's been so interesting to kind of hear all your different lived experiences, and kind of get a whole host of different perspectives from within the community. And yeah, it's been really brilliant to chat to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for having us. Cheers.
Brilliant.